before we get to it, I'd like to ask my colleague Russia, since she works in the tech field as well. What do you think about AI these days and how far we've come?
Yeah, I think it's wild because used creatively, it actually can help you to brainstorm, to give you information, but it also raises the question whether what kind of jobs can be replaced by these AIs, right?
Kind of scary these days. Anyway, speaking about artificial intelligence, recently universities around the world are getting a little wary over the potential use of chatbot, ChatGPT, to write students' essays.
Launched by OpenAI as a prototype in November 2022, the chatbot gained a lot of attention from the media and students alike by its detailed answers, which are nearly impossible to distinguish from human written text. And while many found ways to use it creatively and harmlessly, the ease with which it could answer take-home test questions and assist with other assignments has sparked panic among some educators. Now, by the time schools open for the new year, New York City, Los Angeles, and other big public school districts in the US had started blocking its use in classrooms and on school devices.
The technology is capable of answering simple questions like who is the President of the United States, or even much more complicated essay-style questions with multiple arguments and discourses. Teenagers and college students are among the millions of people who began experimenting with this technology. And joining us this morning is Kata AI CEO and co-founder Irzan Raditya, who will share with us his insights about artificial intelligence. Good morning, Mas Irzan. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Mas Paul.
Very exciting stuff. So let's start off with the story we just updated our viewers with, as seen in our previous story. ChatGPT could write an essay. How does this happen?
I think it's been a fantastic development over the AI world for the past, I think, 1 year, I would say, through the breakthrough of ChatGPT by OpenAI, right? And all in all, it could happen because of the algorithm on what we call as LLM, or large language model. So it's an AI algorithm that could classify a text, that could summarize a text, that could understand the sentiment, the topics, the intent of the text, and even the generation part. So for the past 5 years, AI has been taking the market by storm by only understanding, or what we call as natural language or understanding, NLU. Now, in combining the NLU with NLG, natural language generation, we have the new way of AI to present information to the world and through this kind of like generating text. But we have to be aware that these are all predictions, because AI is by nature is a prediction machine. Machine predicts from the input and produce the output, right? And the factuality is sometimes questionable. So it generates what it thinks makes sense based on the essays it found in the internet, based on the interviews and whatnot.
Okay, and with what we do know of the internet is we can't really, not 100% of everything is true on the internet. So if it's not yet able to distinguish what is actual fact than what is not.
Correct,
right?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
So I read somewhere that AI is basically similar, which is an analogy that a calculator for written text, probably something like that. But again, it depends on the input as well, whether it's correct or not.
Absolutely.
Now, I've seen in social media, a lot of people are starting to review ChatGPT, and then they also say that there are also other options other than ChatGPT that is related to AI. Can you share some of them?
Well, I think AI is quite broad, right? If we try to compare the AI piece, something like ChatGPT, what we call as the new way of AI assistant, we have called Bard by Google. They just recently announced it. But if we see from the holistic point of view, if you use iPhone, there's Siri, right? Siri is an AI-powered chatbot as well.
Correct.
We use Google, there's Google Assistant, and then same thing with Amazon's Alexa and others. And yeah, I think there are a lot of like corporations in Indonesia as well. They have utilized chatbots in using the power of AI to improve their bottom lines and customer experience.
Okay, so this like ChatGPT is just the latest iteration, if you will, with something that is mind-blowing to us all. But in fact, we've been surrounded by all this AI for all this time in the form of personal assistants. So let's talk a little bit about Kata AI. What is it that Kata AI does? Because basically we were told that it uses words as input. It can also process pictures. Can you explain a little bit more about Kata AI?
Yeah, so Kata AI, we started back in 2015. We are the largest conversational artificial intelligence platform in Indonesia.
Okay.
So we're the backbone of chatbots in Indonesia, mostly built by corporations and enterprise who want to build an AI-powered chatbot that could comprehend Indonesian language.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're the backbone technology, so to speak.
And how long have you been developing this technology since you started?
Since 2015, but
Wow,
we
okay.
pivoted from B2C to B2B in 2017. So now we have powered over 170 chatbots out there and processed over 2 billion conversations.
Wow. So correct me if I'm wrong then, because AI technology seems to be improving at a vast pace.
Yep.
Is this because the more it's being used, the more data you're able to collect and then make that technology that much more accurate, that much better?
So the two key drivers here, one exactly what you mentioned before, the data.
Okay.
Because the data is the oil, it's the fuel for AI to
Right.
create the quality of output and prediction. And every day we store 2.5 quintillion bytes of data to the internet, every day. And we can see like now smartphones are getting more accessible and people
Yes.
are storing the data every day.
Yes.
And it's everyone, right?
Yeah.
The second one is the advancement of the algorithm, because people are doing a lot of research and then more refinement on research, and they produce this model that's very, very robust, powered by all the data, and here we are. We have seen the power of ChatGPT, for example.
Yeah.
Right. So where does this put us? Like, you know, we've talked about this before the program. Where does this put us on the moral map? I mean, there is a lot of data being collected, but it is being put to good use.
Yeah.
Will that always be the case? Because we discussed about how, if it can help you answer questions,
Yeah.
for example, take-home test questions. If it can help somebody write an essay, is that overusing it or misusing the technology? What's your stance on this?
I think whether we like it or not, AI has put a great kind of like disruption, so to everyone here,
Yeah.
to humanity, right? And I think by the end of the day, it goes back to us as the human being, as the users, to have some awareness, like how we want to utilize this AI. Yes, it is a tool, it's a technology. It can boost up our productivity,
Yep.
can help us doing our day-to-day lives. At the same time, the platform owners, the technology providers, they have to be aware that they need to protect the data privacy and the consent coming from the customers, right? And it might be someday coming from the regulator part on how to regulate AI and workforces. They could combine in our day-to-day lives and protect the data privacy of the customers.
Okay.
So it's interesting because I was using it just to check it out, right? And then I asked give me a meal plan, a workout plan for, let's say, a woman 50 kg to lose weight in this amount of time. And they gave a very detailed answer. So that raises the question, there's a lot of jobs potentially that could be replaced. And so what is your take on that in terms of how AI will develop in the future and how us actually need to prepare for that?
That's a very good question, actually. One thing for sure is that AI will change the way we live. I think especially with the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha, they will use AI tools every day. Now we just found an AI tool to help us to do text production, like writing some copywritings, for example,
Yep.
getting some essays, getting some advices. But it will be part of daily lives, and everyone who will use AI, they will feel like productivity will be boosted up.
Yep.
The second thing coming from businesses, I believe AI will improve the bottom line of all businesses out there. They could reduce their costs, or for example, like create a new avenue of growth. And every kind of corporations who don't use AI will be left behind. And the third one here, we believe that AI itself for Indonesia, based on the research from the consulting firm called Kearney, and also Singapore Investment Board, EDBI, it can produce $366 billion of GDP to Indonesia in 2030. And what does it mean for the jobs here?
Yes.
I believe humanity will always survive and thrive. We've seen a lot of iterations in the industrial revolutions, right? We always find a way to survive through our creativity,
Yep.
to our compassion. So I believe in humanity. And again, my core belief, there will be some tasks will be replaced by AI. But the job itself, it won't be replaced completely. Just the task being shifted, for example.
Okay.
So it actually takes away the menial task that was done by probably quote unquote a more blue collar jobs, and then it actually gives space for people to think more critically or creatively and having compassion with each other.
Exactly, totally.
And speaking of creative, though, AI is starting to do a little bit of that as well. I notice all the viral art, but that's a whole nother can of worms. You mentioned regulations.
Yep.
What are the current regulations right now? Because it seems that technology moves at a very fast pace, as we mentioned, and regulators have not really caught up to how quickly it's advancing. So where are we now in regulations when it comes to, at least in Indonesia or even international?
Yeah, I think there's this data privacy regulations in Indonesia already, right?
Okay.
And I've been part of this Indonesian National AI Strategy Committee since 2019. So I think there's a lot, like some pillars that are being discussed for the roadmap. I can't disclose the details yet, but all in all, it's part of the regulation on how there's a quad-helix collaborations between the industry, the regulators, and then the academia and the community on how we can embrace AI to our day-to-day lives and make it safe for the I'll say the people in Indonesia.
Okay. And in regards to, let's move one step down from regulations then, for example, schools and universities. Will there be a human way to detect if something has been plagiarized? If a student submits something that, this one sounds a little too good to be you, then it's a little obvious, but some of these aren't as obvious. There's a lot of lines that have been blurred by
Right, right. I think the practical way is there's a tool that's already being built and launched on the internet just to test whether this essay is produced by AI or not.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's called GPT-0 or not.
Oh, so it's like the counter for the chat
Yeah,
GPT.
Exactly, it's like the counter. But the way I look at it holistically, that maybe education has to change.
Ah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it cannot be so much of a textbook, I think, approach anymore, but more towards like the, I don't know, the results, the outcome from the students and
Reasoning.
yeah, reasoning, yeah,
Right.
critical thinking, for example, and yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's time for, curriculums have been around for decades and centuries, so perhaps it does need to change a little bit in order to keep up with. And we can learn more using this
Yeah, and maybe
technology
like we
as
can
well.
go back to those time where philosophers thinks about the actual meaning
The
of
meaning
life.
of life. By the way, you did ask the question. What did it
I
tell you?
know, it tells, so I asked ChatGPT what is the meaning of life, and it said that the meaning of life is objective. It really differs from one person to another person, which I think is one of the best answers that you can find out there, because on Google you can find so many people like having opinions of whatnot, you know, like can be from one side or the other side, but ChatGPT is able to sort of summarize it in a way that is objective and
Sounds very human, doesn't it?
I know, right? Sounds like talking to your wise grandpa or something
Right.
like that.
Okay. That's a good way to look at the internet. Our wise grandpa. So, real quick, where do you think? I mean, obviously, you do a lot of research on your own end in regards to this technology as well. Where are we going in this next year? Because you said this last year has been very critical in the development of AI. How fast is this going to develop, and where will we be 1 year from now?
Yeah, I think the development of AI in next 1 or 2 years, it's gonna be more exponential. Even myself, I couldn't forecast like how is it gonna be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I think for the past 2 years, it's been going very exponential. But one thing for sure, I would say like a lot of tools or software we use today will be powered by AI by default. So it's becoming the norm,
Okay.
right? The second one is more and more corporations will be adopting AI for sure to improve their customer experience, their operations, and others. And third, we might be seeing a new wave of entrepreneurs in building like native AI-powered tools that will be useful for us. For example, I don't know if you have tried this or not. I think a couple of days ago, I've used an app called Tome. It's an AI-powered PowerPoint, so to speak.
Wow.
So I could just write my outline and then produce me
Wow.
these full slides. Not that perfect, but it
Okay.
saves like 50% of my time.
Right.
See, that's something where I could find, because PowerPoint takes forever for me. I suck at PowerPoint.
Yes.
Right? Because that would be
Yes.
something that's very handy
Yes.
as well. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, so I think it's very interesting to see, to discuss all this, but for the average people like us, like we don't have any technical background or engineering background, how can we survive in this like AI world, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. It's always important to improve our skill as a human being, to learn new things, what we can, contribute to the community, for example, to the people around us. The second one is always embrace it, because we cannot fight it anyway. But how to learn to maximize the potential, to harness the potential of these AI-powered tools, again, to improve our work output, work outcome, and productivity as well. So I embrace it with awareness, I'd say.
So like explore it to
Consciously.
the max with consciousness.
Well, since you're an expert on this matter, you mentioned one. What was the name of that app, the AI-based PowerPoint?
It's called Tome.
Okay.
T-O-M-E. Yeah.
All right. Do you have two more of your favorite AI-based apps right now?
Well, I also use Compose.ai.
Okay.
It helps us to write email, for example.
Oh, nice.
Integrate to my Chrome and Gmail, for
Oh
example.
my
All
God,
right.
that is amazing.
Look at that. Two that you're going to download already.
Yeah.
Any more? One more,
And
perhaps?
third one, I use multiple like AI generation tool from text. Like
Okay.
there's called Midjourney, for example.
Okay.
And there's Stable AI and some others. So instead of like finding image on Google or ask my designers to produce some
Right.
image, this is text
Oh,
here.
what is it called?
It's called Midjourney.
Midjourney.
Or
Oh
even like
my
Stable
God.
AI. Yeah.
Yes.
Those are the two famous ones.
Noted.
You know,
Right.
I'm gonna just work
Your
4 hours a
presentations will
day.
be a breeze. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and kind of
Welcome.
opening our eyes a little bit more when it comes to this matter. Obviously, this is all very new to all of us. So we do have to embrace this a little bit more and welcome it for all its good uses. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Too.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.